let's pop off right now. We got to get started.
We gotta go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get the people in the chat. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrisSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uwayama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, August 29th, and we have another mailbag show for everyone today. I think this will be a regular thing because what happens is we have our post-game show right after the games, and then I have the morning after recap, and then Jamie and Mike are on Power Hour. The previous game is covered 3 times full. So I think that after that, people sometimes have questions, things they want to follow up on. I think the Tuesday show is a good time for that. So this is probably what we'll do going forward. And then Thursdays will be the previews for the upcoming week and anything that comes up throughout the week and press conference stuff. We can talk about that. And then it's normal schedule, right? Then it's the post game shows, and then it's the morning after recaps, and on and on and on. So just want to give you guys a kind of a preview and a heads up of how we're going to be covering the team this year. If you like what you hear and you like what you see, this is your first time checking out the show and you haven't done so already, please hit the like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live. There's not usually as much breaking news right now, but there can be. So if you never know where we're going live. So if we have an impromptu live show, we can do that. And before we get going, I want to talk to you about our sponsor, ESQ Clothing. And if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe for work, for weddings, cocktail events, anything you got going on, you're going to want to check out Ga Wang's bamboo dress shirt. It's crafted from the high-quality bamboo fabric, softest and most comfortable shirt you'll ever put on. Not only more sustainable than cotton, but it feels cooler, has stretch, odor, and wrinkle-resistant, even machine washable. It essentially pays for itself in saving on dry cleaning. So that's a very big plus. Not a lot of people are talking about that, Jamie. Not a lot of people are talking about that. People talk about the price. They don't talk about the savings. It's built in. No, they don't. So you've seen ESQ's one-piece collar bamboo shirt on every photo of Marcus Freeman, and it's the perfect shirt for today's business meeting or heading for a night out. So check out ESQclothing.com. Upgrade your shirt game. All right, Jamie. Got some questions. Not as many questions, which is nice. It's actually nice. We don't have to go for an hour and 40 minutes, but we did have some really good questions about the game, about going forward, and that sort of thing. Before we get into those, though, anything on your mind that you want to talk about from the game for wrap up, something that Marcus Freeman said? There's a question. Actually, let me throw this to you, so it's not as open-ended. Zach Davis says, hurry up. There we go. Listening to Brady Quinn talk about this potentially being the best, deepest Notre Dame team he can remember seeing. What do you think about that, Jamie? I've got a thought on that and a lot of the other coverage that we've heard from this. Obviously, I don't want to say people will overreact, but, you see Notre Dame have a dominant win. The superlatives are going to fly. So what do you think, Jamie? What do you think of this comment here?
Yeah, well, I think it was the Navy. I don't know if it was the SID who tweeted that out about how he thought this was the best Notre Dame team that Navy had played or whatever, and thought it was better than the 2012 team that obviously whooped them in there too. Which, I mean, I think it's just it's so hard to compare these teams because it's different eras, and obviously they didn't have the same kind of level of quarterback, and there's just a lot of things that are so different from there. I mean, best, I think it's just way too early to say best. Yeah. Like let's see what they do against the heart of the schedule. Deepest, I don't think that is a crazy statement. I don't think it is, because I think too, like, you didn't even really see a lot of the depth in this game compared to what you're going to see in the coming weeks, because especially on defense, because Notre Dame didn't play their regular defense. Like, Ben Morrison, is the best player on Notre Dame's defense. He barely played in this game. He was barely a factor, because I mean, this isn't his kind of game, right? There's so many guys where it really wasn't their kind of game. So I don't even think people have really seen um, everything Notre Dame has to offer on defense, and I think people are going to be really impressed when they get to kind of see more of it. And I think too, this is a game coming up where you could see a lot of like young guys who probably aren't going to play that much during the year,
Mhm.
who are going to probably get a chance to play in this game, and you'll make plays kind of like the end of the Boston College game, but maybe for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it's a tough thing to do. I think you got to be careful about overreacting. Um, it was one of the more impressive opening games that I can remember, though, just
Yeah.
from all around, and it's tough to say that, to not be impressed. If you watch a game and you weren't impressed, or if you watch the game, there saw some people were like, "Does Sam Hartman hate the Titans?" Like, okay, like do we really need to complain about anything? Like there was just nothing there was nothing legitimate to complain about at the end of that game.
Yeah. I don't remember like thinking back and there's nothing really like super alarming about it. And the other part is it's hard for me to gauge because I thought Navy's plan was kind of nuts. Like especially
It was bad.
defensively. I did not think that they put their players in a very good position. So that was another thing. Like it was super favorable conditions for Notre Dame. But look, credit to them. I mean, someone gives you a favorable situation, you should dominate them, and they did. So it's not taking anything from Notre Dame. It's just to be interesting once teams kind of they find some weaknesses and they can zero in on those things. It'll be interesting to see how Notre Dame reacts in that situation. And the other part is because of that I felt like what Notre Dame did offensively, defensively, it's just kind of like they have to do what they have to do. Like it's hard to project anything going forward from the defense because they're not going to run this. So it's just like the way that they defend the option. Like we've got a lot of questions about the safeties and stuff. Like so much of the problems that they had with diagnosing plays and getting caught like with their eyes in the backfield, like that's all very unique to Navy. Now,
Extreme,
granted,
yeah.
you want to be eye discipline all the time. So that's something to keep an eye on, something to monitor. But I don't have many concerns on that end. But just offensively, like so much of what Notre Dame did, I thought was very basic, very bare bones. They didn't have to go into the bag because like everything they were doing was working. So you don't have to like they ran RPO action. They didn't throw them because you're running for 7 yards a carry. Like what you don't need to pull it and throw all the time. So it was just it was a very dominating performance on that end. I didn't think that Navy gave them much to work with there, but it is what it is. It was an interesting question. Coming out of the game, I think a lot of people were excited there. And look, if people are going to be born or bound to hyperbole, that's no problem. For me, that's totally fine. So yeah, let's get into the questions here, and then we'll get going with our show there. And the first question is about the safeties from Xer ND 1994. There were a couple plays where the safeties got beat. Brown slips and falls, and the receiver is open. Luckily, Batelho hits the quarterback, and another DB gets back, and the ball hits him, so falls incomplete. Then Harper, I believe, is beat on their first actual completion. Anything to worry about, or just our guys getting caught with our eyes in the backfield? So we kind of addressed this, but Jamie, do you want to go a little bit deeper on that?
I mean, I kind of talked about it in the rewatch notes of the defense too. Like, it's not
Yeah.
even something that's worth like kind of breaking down too heavy, because this is the only game all year where everything is run first for the safeties. Like, so their eyes aren't in the backfield like that. Like, where everything is keyed up about like, I got to get the right angle. I
Yeah.
gotta beat this block. I got to do that. Like, that isn't on the radar. Like, not that you want to take good angles and whatever, but that isn't on the radar like it is. Like, this is first and foremost over everything this
Yeah.
week. And you have to remember both those plays too, specifically, they had thrown one pass in the first half. So they kind of opened that up there after you're just like, not only are you expecting run going into the game, it's like all they've done is run. All that talk about them, like kind of opening it up and doing this short passing game, they did none of it, right? Like they did none of it, right? They ran the one little screen. That's it. That Maris kind of ate up like that. So there wasn't that. So I don't think it's anything to worry about. Especially this specifically with Harper, because he kind of just got into the game. Like he had barely played in the game. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you're out there, you're not kind of used to the speed of it all. First of all, Harper, even though he's a veteran guy who's played a lot of football, he hasn't played Navy every year, right? Like that's just like, it's kind of his first taste of Navy, right? So it's a whole different thing. So I wouldn't worry about it at all.
The only thing that I would say is I don't like so on the first possession, Cam got his eyes in the backfield, and that led to the open receiver. I think it was Bertrand too. Was the other linebacker who was kind of peeking, and his man got free. Yeah. So, and then DJ Brown on the other one. The only thing that I don't like is that those are, first of all, they're two captains, so that's no good. DJ Brown is his 5th year in the program, right? You don't like that. You don't love that. Okay. And Cam, we've talked about Cam before. Like he does do this. He'll make a mental error and he'll have bad eyes, right? He'll have maybe not one a game, but if he's getting beat, it's usually because of something like that, where he has bad eyes. And Bertrand, again, of the other 3 linebackers, I think you guys talked about this. We thought he had the worst game of the 3 linebackers. Which, look, you're a captain. I don't like that from a captain. You've been program 3-year starter. You're missing plays, not out in space. I think it was a point that you made. Like he's in the box. Maybe he's maybe he's a little jacked up. Maybe all that stuff. You can't be jacked up. You're the guy. You're wearing the C on the jersey. The team needs to. It
happened once, fine, but he missed like 4 tackles. That
he got
to make those tackles. So.
Yeah, so the team's counting on you to be the steady rock in the middle. So I didn't love that. Nitpicky for sure, but something just to keep an eye on. Right, we did see it, so it's something that needs to be monitored going forward. Let me blow this up here so I can actually read it. All right, Irish at SJS. How is it that ESPN highlights the freshman catching 2 touchdowns and the Heisman winner throwing 4 touchdown passes when Notre Dame has its freshman catching 2 touchdowns and Sam Hartman throwing for 4 touchdowns? Is money really such a factor in college coverage of football? Is college football news truly just a scam of public relations? And who will get the most benefit in their news media? So what do you think, Jamie? I think a lot of people were super excited about Zachariah Branch and obviously Caleb Williams. I mean, he did win the Heisman Trophy, so fair enough. Did you think that there was a skew in the way those 2 things were covered?
I mean, I didn't watch it, so I can't say that it was like, I'm going to take his word for it that they did it. But I think, Branch, I mean, I saw Branch's highlights. Like I saw them on Twitter, and I mean, they're pretty awesome. Like
pretty awesome. They're
pretty awesome. He also was a 5-star. Like he's a hyped up guy. So I don't think that, I don't think that it was like anything that they were, it's not crazy that they were like hyping him up.
Yeah.
Should they have hyped up Jaden Greathouse more? Maybe. And I will say that his thing about ESPN and how they highlight Notre Dame players compared to other programs. Yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing because that's not just a real thing for Notre Dame. It's just anyone. If you don't have, if they don't have coverage of it, they're going to do less of it. They're going to give less love to it. So you just watch now, because the Big Ten is going to go all, it is basically moving away from ESPN. They're just going to be, and not that they already don't give enough ton of love to SEC. There's just going to be more stuff for the SEC than there is for the Big Ten, that's going to happen. Just like how the NHL wasn't on ESPN for years, and they acted like it didn't exist, and then they got the coverage back, and then all of a sudden they're like doing like spots on Sports Center and whatever. That's how it is. It is it's totally money driven. It's what it's business driven, what they're doing to promote stuff that's on their network. And I mean, that's just kind of how it is. That's just, I mean, I don't think you can expect anything to change that unless, like, I doubt if this would happen, but unless like Notre Dame did a deal with ESPN. And then if they did that, then guess what? I mean, it would be Notre Dame overload, and people will, everyone who hates Notre Dame will just be like, wow, just can they stop? Can they shut up about Notre Dame already? Like that's what will happen.
I think that if Jeremiah Love had 230 yards of all-purpose yards in the game with a kickoff return touchdown and then another running touchdown, it would have been huge. It would have been a huge thing. Look, and Zach Branch, like you said, he's a 5-star. Like, they're gonna hype that up. Caleb Williams is he won the Heisman Trophy. Sam Hartman won the Heisman Trophy. I mean, and look, people talked about Notre Dame, so I get it. I do think that we are kind of sensitive to USC getting a ton of press when their defense gave up 28 points or whatever. And Notre Dame was quote unquote more impressive, throughout the game and as a whole. But they're going to get coverage. It's fine. Notre Dame will have their chance.
USC's defense, though.
They got a lot of that stuff. So there's a lot. The Notre Dame will have their chance to have their say against that team. So it's all good to me. But I understand the question. All right. Drew Brennan, 77. How about a jet sweep to Tobias to start the game on Saturday? Seems like he needs to get some confidence back, and hopefully he gets himself going. Still have faith he will, but this is a big week to get him some touches. Thoughts? There's a lot of Tobias talk going on in the chat right now.
Yeah, a lot.
Jamie, you go, and then I'm going to go. Fired up.
Okay.
You go, and then I'll go. I'm fired up about this.
I think it would be good to get him involved early. Obviously, they tried to get him involved early in this game, and he dropped a pass. But, I mean, part of the reason he dropped the pass is he was going to get lit up. Like, Greathouse whiffed on his block, and, he heard the footsteps, and that happened. Like, it was probably a blessing in disguise that he dropped it. But I think just like how there is hyperbole in terms of, like, hyping up Notre Dame right now and Notre Dame's offense and all this, and there's definitely hyperbole there. It's gone the same way with Tobias Merriweather in a negative direction. Like, this guy has he's played like 4 college football games or whatever it is. Like, it's like less than 6. Like, he has barely had any targets his way. You can point to a million receivers who didn't, had like nothing in like the first couple games and then blew up or whatever. So like, I don't think people should give up on him at all. Like, I think that's ridiculous. Plus, he was wide open. He cooked the guy. The ball was underthrown, and it was PI on the other play. So I don't know. I just think it's a total overreaction to Tobias Merriweather. I'm not saying that like he's like this finished product, and I've heard like he needs to, there's things in his game that he needs to develop. He's not like anywhere close to the guy he's going to be, but it's like people giving up on him. Like, are you kidding me? Like, just let it play out. I mean,
yeah,
it's so funny because those people probably gave up on Deion Colsey. And now they're all loving him because he had a nice game on Saturday. Like, just let it play out, guys. Like, let it play out. Like, I just think it's ridiculous to judge a guy based on this. And like, I mean, here's Miles Boykin. You know what Miles Boykin had done by this time in his career with the same time as Tobias Merriweather? Nothing. 0 catches, right? Like, Chase Claypool basically did not. Like, let it play out. Like, just how would we let at least like a few games into the season go? I mean, if it was like 5 drops and you're like, oh my gosh, and then he was making all kinds of mistakes, then you'd be like, okay, like this is a problem. But also, did you watch the guy block? He's busting his butt blocking. Like he's engaged. He's a talented kid. He's developing. Like just let it play out.
Yeah. Okay. So Notre Dame's wide receiver 1, Jaden Thomas, this year, who everyone loves, and had a great game on Saturday. Through 3 games of his redshirt freshman season last year, in 132 snaps, 0 targets against Ohio State, 1 of 4 against Marshall for 8 yards, caught 1 pass for 8 yards and 4 targets. And he had the play where they threw the ball. He didn't fight hard enough to break it up. It's a pick 6. Marshall goes on and basically seals the game with a pick 6. Everyone said, didn't fight hard enough, right? Didn't make the play. Next game against Cal, 0 targets, obviously 0 receptions. Okay? That's the Jaden Thomas, redshirt freshman, same age as Tobias. Okay? He turned out fine. So there's that. One thing I would say, don't drop the ball. Period.
Yeah,
Receivers, don't drop the ball. Don't drop it. You shouldn't drop the ball. In that situation, I know exactly what's happening. He wants that ball in his hands. He wants to get the ball and go. He wants it right now. He wants it in there. And he's like you said, he feels the player coming. He wants to get the ball. He wants to get out of the way, and he wants to get upfield. Okay. He doesn't squeeze it. He doesn't catch the ball, loses concentration. That's his mistake. Big problem. The missed touchdown. He's open by 3 or 4 yards. That is a touchdown. That has to be completed. And I don't understand how people are turning that play where Sam Hartman is late and he is short into this is a problem for Tobias Merriweather. If Sam Hartman is going to be the best quarterback that Notre Dame has had since Joe Hewart, Lou Jack Montana, then that ball needs to be completed 100% of the time. That is what in Notre Dame has been missing. People talk about all the time. Sam Hartman, he raises the ceiling. He raises the ceiling. First chance they got to go over the top. People talk about, oh, throw him open. He threw him covered. He was wide open and he threw him covered. He cannot miss that throw. And I don't need to tell that to Sam Hartman because he knows, because right after the play, he goes like this. He goes, like get it in there, right? He points at his chest. It's my bad. He knows right away he messed it up. It's not Tobias's fault that he was interfered with and then the ref called it off. Okay, that's not his fault. He was obviously jumped into. You know, people always want to say, like, this is what he should have done. You know what? He goes to jump. The guy hits him. The ball hits the defender in the shoulder. It's not like it's up. He hits him in the shoulder. Like, it's not a good throw. Okay, so there's that part. Okay, Sam Hartman, do better. That miss by Sam Hartman is as bad, probably worse than the drop that Tobias had. Okay, like that to me, like do better on that one. Another play that on the deep out to Colsey where he makes the contested catch on the sideline. Tobias is running wide open for a post. He burns the safety. He's running wide open for a post. Jeremiah Love blows the block, and so the blitz assignment, Sam Hartman's got to get it out.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one. Another crossing route where he's running a deep drag. He's wide open on that on the throw to Tyree where he's interfered with. Sam Hartman could throw that pass. Doesn't throw it. Okay, Tyree's open. That's fine. You know, whatever. I'm just saying, like he's running wide open. Another play where on the play to check down to Estime where he one hands it. Tobias is running a post. The corner's on top of it. Tobias sees it. Sam Hartman starts to roll right. Tobias breaks his route off. He's going to the corner. He's going to be wide open. If Sam Hartman sees him and leads him to the corner and throws him open, that's going to be a touchdown as well, or at least an opportunity for a touchdown, right? So to answer the question, I don't know that they need to do anything to get him going. They need to capitalize on the opportunities that are there. This is the same conversation that we have had for the past however many years. These plays are there and they're not being hit. And when Notre Dame gets a quarterback who throws these balls, who throws people open, who takes chances, then they will start to hit on these plays. All these plays are available and they didn't hit on them. And that's what I was talking about with the lack of explosiveness. It's there, and we trust Sam Hartman will get it because he's a good quarterback. Sam Hartman played a great game on Saturday, so I'm not casting aspersions on him. You have to hit these plays. That you have to hit them. You know, like how many times have we seen other teams like Ohio State breaking plays off and the quarterback rolls and hits the quarterback? Ohio State did it multiple times against Georgia in their playoff game, right? That's a play that has to be made at the highest level of football that we want Notre Dame's quarterback and passing game to play at. So, in my opinion, like this whole Tobias stuff is just, what are we talking about? There are open opportunities that need to be capitalized on, and their passing game needs to be able to capitalize on them. The end. And if they throw the ball to Tobias and he doesn't make those plays, then they're going to sit him. But they didn't throw those balls, and the one ball they did was bad. It was a poor throw. So I don't care what people said about Tobias, about the way he practiced or the way the staff feels about him. That doesn't matter. In the game, he was open and he didn't get the chances. And the one time he did, he was interfered with and it was a bad throw. So I'm off it. Like, people need to understand what happened in the game. The other stuff, the practice stuff, is not important to me. It's not. Because in the game, there were opportunities that weren't there. That's my take on that. That is the rant that I was having. I don't like it when people take a narrative and then they fit it into what happened in the game, or it doesn't really fit. It doesn't fit in this situation, in my opinion. So that's what I think. I think they just need to capitalize on the opportunities that were presented to them in the opener. Right, do you want to say anything else, or do you want to go to the
No, I mean, I don't
disagree with any of that. Do you disagree with any of that?
Well, I mean, I think some of those things maybe you're being a bit harsh about. Like, they need to make all of these plays in the passing game. I mean, some like you said, like the one that he throws to Colsey or whatever. It's like there's reasons why they didn't do it. So it's not.
No. I'm not saying why. Obviously, he had to throw that ball to Colsey because he was getting hit. Like, I'm not saying that one, but just the opportunities that are there. Like, we've talked about it forever. Yeah, they need to hit him. That includes the blocking and all that stuff.
For sure. And you know what? And it's just one of those games like, yeah, you're playing Navy and, you can run the ball well and you can do all these things too. But you want to be able to, when you get into a game where that's the kind of play where Hartman, things happen within the game, you miss whatever. But it's like, yeah, you want to be able to hit that, because not only does it get Merriweather going, but it's like in a bigger game, that's going to matter more. Right. So, I just think that it's just like one of these things, like we said from the beginning, like he was going to have games where you're like, wow, Tobias Merriweather. And then there's going to be games where you're like, I mean, you barely notice them, whatever. Right. And I think the main thing is watch a guy block.
Yeah.
Watch the guy block. Is he engaged?
Clearly cares.
He cares. He cares. I've never heard anything bad about how he competes. I've heard he's got to get more consistent, and he's got to, there are things that he needs to work on with his game. It's very similar to everything you heard about Chase Claypool, So, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be Chase Claypool, but I'm just saying it's just one of these things where it's like, you got to let it play out, because he's got a ton of talent. And the people like that, just reiterate, the people, everybody celebrating Deion Colsey right now. It's like, great. He did a fantastic job. Marcus Freeman mentioned he made the most of his opportunities. That's great. Okay. Well, now it's about that for Tobias, but it's like, no one was saying that about Deion Colsey when he wasn't playing. Like, it's just let it play out.
Yeah, let it play out. Guys running free all game. That's what you want. You want that. You want him running free throughout the game, and he was doing so. They'll hit these plays. 1980, UI grad. What would be your ideal snap count breakdown, assuming everything goes as planned and the game is a blowout at halftime?
I mean, I don't know about total snap counts. I guess it's just like in terms of like when you'd like to see guys out of the game. I think what you want is to see Notre Dame to be blowing them out at halftime. And then you get one, maybe two series in the second half for starters, and you're doing that. But also too, I think this is a game where hopefully if you're blowing them out by halftime, you're playing a lot of twos in the first half too, right? And you're getting that because you have to remember with Navy, they only had 3 possessions in the first half of that game on Saturday. So you're going to get more possession, a lot more possessions in this game.
Yeah.
It's a different type of game. So you just want to see more chances for everybody to play. And I think you'll probably get that, and you'll see guys kind of mixed in more. Yeah, I mean, I would be just everything that I've seen about Tennessee State, and I'll have more on Tennessee State tomorrow on ISD, but like they shouldn't hang with Notre Dame for too long.
I mean, if Notre Dame can manhandle Navy like that, I'd like to think that Tennessee State's just going to have a heck of a time. That's just how I feel about it. But the thing to remember is like, so who are we talking about? That's another thing. Who are we talking about? The backs all rotate already, so that's not a thing. Like you'll probably see more of Jadarian Price. You'll probably see more Jeremiah Love. You'll probably see more Devin Ford, right? But you're going to see all those guys. The receivers all rotate, so maybe you'll see Braylon James. Maybe that could be a fun thing to get him out there, get his feet wet. You'll probably see some more backup linemen, right? Do they? Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Do they want to get backup linemen in the game with Sam Hartman? I think is an interesting question, right? Because his health is obviously very important. Do they feel confident enough doing that? The defensive line, I think, is already rotating. You'll probably see the freshman linebackers in this game. So Drake Bowen and Jay Nosberry, you'll see them out there for the first time. The corners are already rotating in, and then the safeties are all playing too. So I think you're only talking about a few people in this scenario, and that's what you want to see. I think getting Steve Angeli, let's see him throw the ball around a little bit. I think that's a pretty big deal. I think that's a pretty big deal. Get him in there and run the offense. Like if it's 21-0 again in the first half, into the middle second quarter, like get him out there. You're fine. You should be fine to have him go out there. Trust him not to throw like a pick six or something, like it should be fine. And that's what I would want to see. And that's what I think the fans want to see as well. Another thing I want to see is more videos from VSR Media, Jamie. That I want to see more of that. I want to see people
King of the segue.
VSR Media. Yeah, absolutely. Just going to VSR Media, and our guy Vahid Sadrazadeh, who was founded by him, Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo, whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify your growing business. VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. To contact them at vsrmediacompany.com, mention Irish Sports Daily and receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. That is the social media management videos out there. It's hot. You're going to want to get on VSR. Vahid's a great guy. Give him a call. Check out the website. All right. Funk Beavis says, after watching game 1 of the Hartman era, if you were OSU's defensive coordinator, how would you defend Notre Dame?
I mean, I don't think they're going to base it just off of game 1 of the Hartman era, right? Obviously, they're going to watch a lot more. I think what I would do, if I was just going to play Sam Hartman, just based on his career, right, and what you saw there, I wouldn't blitz him very much. because that's what he's seen that time and time again. Basically at Wake Forest, when you run that slow mesh, they blitz you a ton, right? So he get blitz about like 50% of his dropbacks. And I think that in this game, it was about 50%. That's because that's around what Navy did. So I would probably do a lot more, where you're just rushing forward. And I think that that's probably what they're going to do, because they're going to want to get pressure they have a pretty good front. So I think that's what they'll probably do. But in saying that, like, um, Jim Knowles is a very heavy blitz guy. He's been known to be a guy who's like loves to attack. That's what he was at Oklahoma State. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do there. And certainly, like, I think they'll go back and watch a ton of film of Hartman at Wake and see what gave him the most problems. But if you're going to look at if you're just basing it just off this one game, then you would say, okay, Hartman was 11 of 12 against the blitz, 13.1 yards per attempt, and 3 of his touchdowns came against the blitz. So I'd be like, yeah, maybe we're gonna drop more guys and we're gonna rush with 3 or 4 more.
Yeah, I think you can play basically umbrella coverage against Notre Dame. What I would do is I think you got to press these wideouts. That's what I would do. Because the thing with Navy, and it'll be interesting when they play a team like NC State, who has better athletes. Because this weekend's not going to give us a good idea because they're not the athletes. But NC State will be an interesting kind of study in how Notre Dame's receivers go against like real Power 5 corners. Because Navy, again, like they're just sitting there. They're all sitting at 10 yards and they're letting Notre Dame's receivers run up on them. So much free access stuff. Like they just didn't challenge those guys.
And they're not good.
And they're not good. So like it's just not a good.
It's like, not a good gauge.
It's not a good gauge at all. And so if it was me, it's like I'm pressing those corners and I'm saying like, look, you guys really need to compete against our guys. Our corners are going to be better than your receivers. And it doesn't matter how good Sam Hartman is. Like he's got to be awesome against us. Like he's got to be the quarterback that he wants to be, a guy who wants to go into the NFL and that sort of thing. Like you really got to challenge him to be big time. It's not that he can't do it. Right. He's shown it against really good teams. Like Clemson's physical with receivers, and Wake's threw for 6 touchdowns. Right. So, but that's what I would do. It just initially. And then, and plus there's going to be more film on them and they're going to be able to pick weaknesses. So maybe this is a better question for after NC State to see how they handle their defense, because they got a pretty good defense over there. Silverback says, will Anya and healthy Rubio take more and more reps away from Mills and Cross as the season progresses? Just a note, Gabe Rubio is out for a couple of weeks with some sort of knee injury. So that really hurts not just Gabe Rubio, but also like Howard Cross might be having to play more snaps against the team like Tennessee State. You don't want, or NC State, like you don't want him to accumulate a bunch of snaps early in the season. This probably means more time for someone like you mentioned
Donovan Heinisch.
Donovan Heinisch. Gosh darn it! Sometimes that happens. Donovan Heinisch. There's going to be more time for him. It's a good opportunity for him against a team like Tennessee State to get some reps. So that's good for him. But going forward, you think Anya and Rubio will take more reps away from Mills and Cross, going forward?
I mean, probably not that much. Like I think they'll have a pretty healthy amount of snaps, but I think Cross and Mills are pretty good. And I think Howard Cross is really good. And like Mills obviously has a chance to have a big, big year. I think that those guys are going to play, like Anya and Rubio when he's healthy, they're going to play a lot. And it's just going to depend, like, how those guys perform in when they start playing real teams, right? So what do you look like when you're playing NC State? Who they're not going to have the greatest line, but they got some guys who have, they got three or four NFL prospects on their line. What is it going to look like against Ohio State? Because if those guys aren't playing well against Ohio State in their snaps, then they're not taking away snaps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you just have to wait and see. I think I like what both of those guys have done, and what they showed in camp, especially. But now you got to see, what's Rubio going to look like when he gets back? Is he going to be 100% when he gets back? Hopefully he's 100% by Ohio State. That's, obviously the most important thing. But I think you just gauge it by that, because if you aren't doing that against the best teams you play against, then you're not going to take those snaps away. And you got to go in and earn it. And you got to go and make the most of it. So, like, you know what? Josh Burnham goes in and he gets a sack. And it seems like, it's not like the biggest deal. You get a sack against Navy. They're obviously not the best in pass pro. But you make a play and you get more chances.
Yeah.
And so does that mean he's like all of a sudden going to get more reps than Junior Tui Halamaka going forward? No, it doesn't mean that for sure, but it's the kind of thing that can get you more snaps, right? So it's just something to monitor, as they say. And then I think Lee Weaver is asking about Tyson Ford.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, I mean, Ford was really not.
So the question is, for people who aren't, for the podcast, should Tyson Ford get some reps at 3 Tech this weekend? Might need him.
I mean, I think he might, but you got to remember he lost like a bunch of weight, so he was like down to like in the 270-ish range. So he was around 290, which was probably like not the greatest 290. Like it wasn't a Jason Anye 290. So. And then he was getting reps at end. And I know that he was like working with scout team. So, he wasn't, and, there's a reason he wasn't listed on the depth chart, right? Because he wasn't in the rotation, right? And he didn't get any chances in this game. So this is a perfect opportunity for him to step up and get reps in this game. And like, he better go out and show out if he gets chances, because he just didn't really show out in camp, really. Like in his opportunities, you just saw other guys kind of stand out more. So that's going to be the key for him, right? Is like, you know what, you play in these games. It's just like X Watts against Navy a few years back, right? Like if he doesn't do that, then it's like X Watts isn't playing later on in the year. If he doesn't do that, that was when they were like, maybe we got something with X Watts. Like that's how it happens, right? That's how it happens. You show something there and you get more. So I don't know. It's a perfect opportunity for him, because he's obviously he wasn't in the rotation to start the season. And we'll see. We'll see, right? But I think his position is 3 Tech going forward. That should be his position. The problem is like, you got guys competing there, and I mean, who's to say that Armel Mukum might not like end up like, it just could happen, right? Because at this point in time, like Ford hasn't really got a chance or shown anything on Saturdays. So if he's got to be practicing well, and if he's not practicing well, they might give Mukum more reps in the Tennessee State game. It just could happen that way.
Yeah, it's hard because it seems like he changed his body to change positions. And so you could see a situation where he's like, look, he has 4 years because he redshirted last year. So he has 4 years still. And you say, okay, I'm going to change positions. I'm going to change my body. And then JJP and Nana will move on after this year. And then I'll have an opportunity at strong end. But to your point, like things don't stay static forever. Other players, they come in and they improve, and it's not like everyone is just like going to be okay with like, okay, this is your spot now. Like that's not how it works, right? Like other players come in, other freshmen come in, and Maybe they're more advanced and they don't need to change their body. Like they don't need to go through like technique changes or anything like that. So that's where it can get caught. You know, Jason Anye was a guy who changed positions. Like it has worked out for him. So look, it's one of those things like maybe it works out and maybe it doesn't, you know. I think we had heard good things about him at 3 Tech. So the move was in the loss of weight was surprising, I think. So that's just something to keep in mind, right? Like you said, if he gets his opportunity, it'd be good if he went out there and did the thing. So that's something to keep track of there.
Yeah, I just thought he was just. Yeah, I think he flashed in the spring. Yeah. You know, he was heavier in the spring. He was around 290. But like I said, it wasn't a great 290. So they might have told him to kind of lean up and I don't think like. Don't get me wrong. People shouldn't give up on him. Like I saw there's a comment there, like, why isn't he ready yet? He's been in the program for a year, right? Like, it's not like, I mean, Aiden Kanaana, like, this is like his 4th year. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference between a guy in his 2nd year and his 4th year. You know, those are completely different situations. So you just got to kind of wait and see. And sometimes all it takes is somebody getting hurt and getting an opportunity, because that happens, right?
Yeah.
And you just got to go but you got to go earn it, right? You got to earn it. And I mean, I'll point to Dion Colsey. Last year, everyone's like, man, I guess Dion Colsey, like, is this guy on the transfer train or what? Like, didn't see any of them, think he was hurt in camp, whatever. Like, all of a sudden, and then he's making big catches on 3rd down at the end of the year. First game of the year, limited opportunities, makes the most of it. Maybe that leads to something big for Dion Colsey. We'll see.
Yeah. So we'll see. Stay tuned on Tyson Ford. Dublin Irish asks, how difficult will it be for the team to get back onto U.S. time? The players leaving basically Saturday night at midnight, really early checkout from their hotel Sunday morning. Probably didn't sleep very much. Well, the coaches have toned down Monday's practice. How can they avoid players being flat this week? It's hard for me to answer because I'm speaking from. I don't remember what it was like in college. You know, like these college kids, maybe they just like they don't need the amount of sleep that 42-year-old Greg needs. So it's just I don't know how they do. I know they had Sunday off and they worked on Monday. I think it's one of those things that you just work through it. You know, the coaches will say, like, you got to work through it. No excuses. I mean, it'll probably take them a couple days to get acclimated, but I think by game time, they should be ready to go.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, anyone who's traveled overseas, you know, like it hits different people differently, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some people it takes longer to get over the jet lag. There's some people that, like, you know, you travel across the country and you had jet lag and it lasts for like 3 days. And then some other people, like, doesn't bother them at all, right? So you just kind of have to monitor it. And obviously, like, they're doing stuff like monitor sleeping and checking how everyone is and all that. So I mean, it's like one of these things that's like, I don't know how we would know the answers to it until, like, you just see it. So we'll see. And it's the kind of thing too, if you're like, oh, Notre Dame is like, their players really like walked through this game against Tennessee State, or they really had like a horrible week of practice because everyone was jet lagged. I mean, then to me, it's like, okay, yeah, for all like the goodwill of doing the game in Ireland and stuff too, that's like the kind of thing you got to be like, man, we can't do this anymore, right? Like we can't be taking these cross-country flights, because it's different also for like pros and college kids too, because there's classes and there's all those other responsibilities too.
Yeah. Couple wonderful comments. Tyler Hack says, I don't look a day over 41. Thank you for that, Tyler. It's very, very nice to hear. Rob is using the phrase monitor at work this morning. So Rob, cool. We're monitoring. Rob's monitoring something at work, and that's always nice. And Lee Weaver, thanks for the super chat and the compliment. Guys do a great job. Thank you for that, Lee. We really appreciate that. You know, we do it for the people, Lee. We do it for you. So thank you for being on the show today. Really appreciate that. All right. Irish One says, did Greg like the announcing crew for the Navy game? I did not. I don't need to belabor it anymore. You know, look, if Jason Garrett is not good again, then I will I will say he was not good again. I don't need to go into it. Look, it's not like the biggest thing in the world. It's mostly something for the post game show when it's topical and I'm thinking about it. Kind of like the officials. On the Tuesday show, I've lost my fervor on that sort of thing. So don't really need to go into that too much. But yeah, not a big fan. Rockney, would you like to attribute the lack of passes to the tight ends primarily due to the blocking assignments? So do you take anything away from the lack of tight ends in the passing game? I personally don't, just because I saw a couple opportunities where Sam Hartman could have thrown them the ball. He just went to another area on the field. Very easily could have just thrown it to a tight end in that situation. But did you take anything away from that?
No, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it. I don't think it's anything to worry about. It could have been just like game plan specific in terms of like what they wanted to attack. And I mean, they were really key in the blocking game and what they did, and obviously versatile in terms of where they lined up and all of that. So I think it's, some of what their role in the run game, maybe that was actually part of it, because they were like doing a lot there, and I think some of it, there might also be some of it like building like tendency into being like, well, we're in this, so we want people to think this, and then you can get it up to have open later. But like, I'm not worrying about like what those guys' production is going to be over the years, or what the targets are going to be like over the course of the year. We went to the scrimmage and in camp, and they drove down the field. They had a nice RPO play to hold and stays for a big play, and then Mitchell Evans scored the touchdown after. It's like, they didn't throw to a receiver on the drive. It's just like, I think it's just whatever is going to happen during the course of a game. And I think you are going to see those guys, they're not putting up Michael Mayer numbers, but they're going to have numbers. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it either. It just, like I said, the offense, game plan was bare bones. Like, it just wasn't. They didn't need to do a whole bunch of much. Yeah, they didn't have to do a bunch of stuff. Let's see. Sloth says, "Will Notre Dame punt this week? If Notre Dame punts in 4 or fewer games, does a punter get a red shirt? I do expect a lot more rotation of linebackers, not garbage time. Now Notre Dame won't be facing the triple option. I think we talked about the linebackers. We expect those freshmen.
Yeah, those guys are going to play more. Jalen Sneed. I mean, Jalen Sneed played in this game, but he'll play more in this game too.
Yeah. Will Notre Dame punt? They might not. To be honest, they really might not. They may not have a punt in 2 games.
I think they might in this game, just because.
I mean, if it gets late.
Also, the one thing is that Tennessee State, they have some players on defense. I mean, it's not comparably, it's not like a Power 5 or anything like that. They don't have like a bunch of NFL guys in their defense or anything like that. This isn't Marshall's defense from last year. They're going to compete hard. Like, they get like a havoc play. There's like a blown assignment or something like that, and you got to get off schedule, and they might have to punt at some point, right? So it's could happen.
I mean, look, and maybe they're just not as sharp too. That's another thing. Like, everything was clicking against Navy. They had a couple 3rd and longs on the first drive against Navy. They converted them in this game. In the next game, they may not. Just for execution mistakes. So that's also very possible. Just so people know, there's a couple questions in the chat that I've starred that I'm going to get to after these questions here. So stay tuned for that. Mayday says, which one of you is hit and which one is hustle? I think we have kind of said Jamie is hit and I'm hustle. But we don't like to box ourselves in, right? Sometimes Jamie's hustling and sometimes I'm hitting, right? Like, that's just that's the nature of being defenders, right, Jamie? Sometimes you've got to get on the horse and chase down a screen, and I've got to cap the pipe up the middle. So it's just you just never know.
Exactly.
You just never know who's who on any given play. Sergeant Holko says, would you start putting some install in for NC State in the later part of the week?
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. They're first of all, they have staff who already are preparing, have prepared stuff for NC State, that they're going to have stuff prepared for it. They might even mix in some things just in terms of like, oh, NC State runs this, so we're going to just throw this in just so you get a look at it, like something specifically, whatever, like in like NC State's passing game or whatever, we know that we're going to see that from Robert and I's offense or whatever. He's the coordinator for NC State. Like maybe they do that, but like, don't be dumb. Like, don't what are we trying to do here? Like you lose to, I mean, I know this isn't Marshall or whatever, but just go and play the game like you regularly play the game. Like, you're going to have the players. You don't need to do this kind of like pretend that it's all like, we're moving forward to the next thing. You can't say like, hey, we got to take it one practice at a time. We're going to do this. And then we're like, hey, by the way, we're also adding in NC State this week too. So just so you know, Tennessee State sucks. And then whatever, like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah, I think they could, but to your point, like it goes against the message. The message needs to be consistent. Yeah. And that's important for teams and for a staff and all those things. Like you do need to be consistent with what you're telling the team. If you tell the team like, hey, especially after last year, it'd be one thing if these were like they were national champions or whatever. Like different teams. I think with Notre Dame last year, the way that the second game happened, you want to have a good performance. Yeah. Whatever the score is, you want to play well and you want to keep them mentally engaged week to week, and you do that by being consistent every single week. So that's why I wouldn't. It's not a question of whether they could, but they probably could and get away with it. But you want to stay on message with that sort of thing. Andy Tommy says there were two quiet but impressive performances on Saturday versus Navy on both sides of the ball. Upon further review, I saw number 13 Holden Stays block really well. Reminds me a bit of Tommy Tremble. And on defense, I was impressed by number 40, Josh Burnham, for having a nose for the football. I love both players' energy. Nothing like game experience and reps. I guess that's more of a comment and not a question. So, thank you, Andy Tommy, for that. I think we talked about Josh Burnham a little bit, and we talked about Holden Stays blocking. So, so we've covered those things. All right, let's move on to, let's see.
I just want to mention, too, because Lee Weaver talked about the straw hat. I actually, I was going to do it for other people that listen to the post-game show. I was going to wear the straw hat at the beginning of the show, just as a goof or whatever. And then, but the headphones wouldn't fit. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't. So it didn't go, but hey, maybe one day, maybe I'll get the earbuds one day.
There you go. You can be like my earbuds. All right. Early in the show, Adam Ziliak. Hopefully you're still listening here. How do you see the running back room shaking out the rest of the year? It's hard to believe they consistently play 5 running backs all year. I agree with that. So, I mean, probably time will tell, right? Like who is consistently better over the first few weeks here, I think is where that cream is going to rise. What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, and I think it's, even though like you obviously were really impressed with how Jeremiah Love ran the ball, like, he missed that one blitz pickup. Like, that's the kind of thing, right? And it helps to get those live reps, but it's like, if he's not doing that, well, then guess what? He's not going to get.
It cost him a touchdown. I mean, Tobias open for a touchdown, and they can't throw it because he missed it.
If you do that, you're not going to play against Ohio State, So it's those kind of things. They'll probably settle in on 3 guys probably that will end up kind of being their guys. But I think the whole point of you play these, you're playing Navy, you're going to play Tennessee State, you're going to play Central Michigan to begin the year. Well, you want to get all these guys chances, because where are they going to get where are they going to get the reps for you to evaluate them? Because it's tough in practice. Especially when, you're not like tackling to the ground. You maybe aren't going full go all the time, right? Like it's different things that you can't rep as much. So you want to see it as much here, and it's the guys who impress them. So like, it's not to say that JD Price is all of a sudden just like, well, JD Price is the number 2 because he scored that one touchdown there, or Price and Love are definitely going to be ahead of Jerron Payne now. Like, that's not to say, but if they keep running the ball better and they are better, like doing well with their, assignments in terms of like blocking and all these things, well, then they will pass them. And then that's how it goes if Payne isn't doing enough, right? So it's just, you're going to kind of wait to see it. I think that's a really good thing about this kind of first month is you're going to get to see that. And then also too, like, who knows if like all of a sudden someone gets a chance against NC State, you're playing like, a pretty legitimate defense. And then Jeremiah Love gets like a 60-yard house call. Well, guess what? Jeremiah Love is going to get a lot more reps. Like, that's just how it works.
Yeah. And something to point out too is, during the game, speaking of blitz pickup and that sort of thing, Devin Ford on one of the touchdown pass to Jaden Greathouse on the first one where it's over the middle. Devin Ford's in the game and he had a great blitz pickup on that. And we're talking about, how Jeremiah Love missed the blitz pickup. I think Audric Estime also missed the blitz pickup there. And so, like, that's important. That's the sort of thing that, aside from carries and catches and all that, he can be counted on. Like, that's going to be a big deal in, how much playing time he gets going forward. So something to keep track of. Ray Hallcroft says, in your opinion, how critical is it for Notre Dame staff to get Angeli a full half along with other backups? And which key backups do you think need more playing time? How critical do you think it is, Jamie, to get Steve Angeli
full half? No. Like, what? Tell me a game where a backup has played a full half. I mean, ever. Like, I don't. You just don't see it, right? You don't see it. Like, so, because the other thing is, like, you probably want to get Minchie some reps too, right? So if you are blowing them up, if Notre Dame is up like 49-0 at half, just say that, right? Like, you're gonna play Angeli the whole way, and you're not gonna get Minchie some reps, like, or like maybe a walk-ons or something. Like, it's not gonna be like a full half. And I think like you just want to get it. You can't go into planning to get like guys this amount of reps, or they're gonna do this amount of series or whatever. You just want guys to play when the opportunities are there, and you see how whatever they can do to make the most of those opportunities. But in terms of like who we want to see get more reps, I think it's just like I think everybody kind of like just all the 2s and 3s really. Like, I don't think you can just like nail it down to someone. But I also think this is the time too, because if we're talking about the 4-game rule, like, this is a game where you're like, Boubacar Traore, like, would love to see him. Brendan Vernon, would love to see him, right? Like, Adon Schuler, right? Would love to see him. Like, those kind of guys, like, Braylon James, like you mentioned before, Greg. Like, that's perfect example of a guy that you would love to just get, some reps. And then you just never know, because you never know. Like, Braden Lenzy had one, I can't remember what it was, when they were playing like New Mexico, right? And I believe it was 2019. And he had like a big play in that little garbage time. And then all of a sudden later on in the year, he's like the gadget guy who's getting big plays against USC and Boston College, right? So it's, get as many guys reps as you can, and, see what you get out of it.
I think we're going to leave it there, Jamie. That's it for the questions. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I had a really good time. Not as long this time. We'll probably have some longer ones. We surmise as the games get a little bit more serious, have some more comments and questions to address. Although I think there's less questions when they're like so good. Yeah. What are we going to talk about? So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If this is your first time, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. We'll be back on Thursday talking about Tennessee State and the upcoming weekend and any other news that pops up. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Have a good rest of the day, and we will talk to you on Thursday.